Hi guys, and welcome back to the Vanishing Hour. As usual, I am Snow, and here with a new case to submerge us into. This one's coming to you way later than I had wanted, but as usual, I was having trouble deciding on when to start and eventually just got a little lazy. I like to be waist deep in 6 cases at once for some reason, and it becomes debilitating at a certain point. But I managed to pull my head out of my ass, and I have a good one for you guys. Lesser known to me in my part of the world, but this case comes from the north, Canada to be exact, and it's a case we're solving, as are all of these. But before we dive in, let me insert the usual shameless plug. Like and or follow me on the socials at The Vanishing Hour. If you'd like to show further support, head on over to our new little Patreon page, where I've begun posting updates and possible extra content for you to look into, also at The Vanishing Hour. Now that we have that out of the way, let us begin with the vanishing of Maddys Scott. So, to give you a little insight into Maddie, she was born April 29th, 1991, and went missing May 28th, 2011, making her 20 years old at the time. She was born to parents Eldon and Dawn Scott, and has 2 other siblings, an older brother Ben and a younger sister Georgia. Their family resided in Vanderhoof, British Columbia, Canada, which if you're not too familiar with Canada like me, it is located in the western region of the country, just above Washington State, and is about a 10-hour drive north of Vancouver. Its population is roughly 4,000, so it's a fairly small rural town, at least comparatively to cities I'm familiar with. I'm used to upwards of 300,000, and that's just in the city I currently live in. So smaller and probably more of an everyone knows everyone, or someone related to them at least, situation. Growing up, Maddie was a very outgoing and infectious person. She loved to have fun and was a social butterfly in some sense. She loved physical activities like figure skating, dirt biking, horseback riding, and was even an apprentice heavy-duty mechanic with her dad, which is such a badass job to have, I feel. I've always wanted to explore the idea of being a mechanic because I hate feeling like I can't do something for myself. Unfortunately, I just haven't ever actually tried, but the thought is always there when I have to take my car in for shit and shell out money. But anyways, as much as Maddie was willing to roll up her sleeves and do the dirty work, she had a girlier side of her too. Her family described her as someone who was equally comfortable in a dress as she was in work coveralls. She loved spending time with friends and was really into the theater type scene at her high school. Her and her visual arts buddies would get together and create silly horror mini-movies and record them goofing off around town. There's actually a documentary by a Scottish native named Stephen Scouler. Sorry if I butchered the crap out of that. But it's called, oddly enough, The Vanishing of Maddys Scott. And it details her life prior to going missing and the investigation up until that point. And it interviews a lot of her high school friends and her family. And it was weird to watch because it kind of just rang with a bit of nostalgia for me. Everyone knew that group of kids at the high school. I still remember the group at mine and was friends with a few of them. And it just made the case feel a little bit more real to me and relatable, I guess. So, sophomore year of high school for Maddie, a girl by the name of Jordy moved to town. Jordy and Maddie became friends at that time. However, that didn't seem to last long, and they slowly started drifting and eventually just started running in other circles, it seems. But they remained friendly, and as Dawn put it, they were more of acquaintances leading up to graduation in 2009. So on May 27th, 2011, this was going to be the first time Maddie and Jordy were reconnecting since graduating 2 years prior. I feel like this is important to know because initially all of the information and videos I watched kind of portrayed them as super close friends who spent every waking moment together. And I mean, maybe at one point they were, but at least at the time of her disappearance, that wasn't the case. So that brings us again to Friday, May 27th, 2011. A Facebook invite goes out to people inviting them to celebrate some guy named Garrett's 25th birthday at Hogsback Lake. This was apparently an annual thing for Garrett to do for his birthday, and he would head out there and camp with a bunch of his friends, and everybody would hang out and party. Maddie, from what I gathered, originally had plans with her cousin Cora. According to Cora, they had been making plans all week to hang out before Cora left town again to head back to Prince George. However, on Thursday, May 26th, Cora texted Maddie, kind of just reconfirming their plans, when Maddie eventually responded back to her via text, letting her know that Garrett's birthday event popped up and that she was actually going to be attending that instead. This is when Maddie and Jordy essentially decide to reconnect. It wasn't really explained how exactly that came to be, and I am curious as to why she suddenly canceled plans with her cousin, who seemed very close to her, and who was in town from Prince George, to then make plans with Jordy to camp overnight at Hogsback. Jordy being someone she wasn't really close with anymore at this point. But Maddie did put a lot of effort into making this reunion happen. Their plan was to head to Hogsback on Friday and set up their campsite and chill out and party for the remainder of the night. Then, of course, share a tent and stay overnight and drive back into town the next morning. Hogsback isn't far from Vanderhoof, where Maddie lived. It's only about a 15 to 20-minute drive south of Vanderhoof, but they were planning on drinking that night and they were being responsible. So the evening of the party, Maddie and Jordy packed up their things into Maddie's white Ford F-150 truck, with Maddie packing 2 tents, a cooler with a bottle of wine and a 6-pack of beer, their sleeping bags, clothing, and a few other things, and headed out to Hogsback. Upon arriving, Jordy and Maddie began setting up the first tent. A little while into setting up the first tent, Maddie realized that it wasn't the right one, so they put that back and began on the second tent, which was supposed to be the 2-person dome tent that they would be spending the night in. As they were setting it up, she realized they had forgotten to grab the tent poles for this tent. They both make the decision to ride back into town and pick up the poles from Maddie's house. When they get there, they explain the mishap to Dawn, they grab the tent poles, and they head out. Dawn kisses her daughter goodbye and tells her to be safe. At this point, it's about 9:30 p.m. at night, and this is the last time Dawn sees her daughter. When Maddie and Jordy arrive back at the campsite, they finish setting up their tent, and shortly after, some people start arriving. By this point, it's now closer to 10 p.m. Maddie is remaining in contact with family via text, letting them know she's got the tent situated and they're fine. She, however, is kind of ready to just wind down and relax, while Jordy apparently is ready to turn shit up. Witnesses state that Maddie shared a bottle of wine with a few other people before climbing into her tent and nestling in for the night. Jordy, however, remains outside the tent and continues to drink and party with the continuous amount of people arriving. At some point, it is realized that there are about 50 people at this party, pretty much all of which Maddie is not familiar with. Jordy mentions that she knows of the people, but she doesn't really know them personally. A few of the attendees mentioned, aside from the girls and the birthday boy Garrett, are Garrett's girlfriend, whose name is not mentioned, Tyler, who is Jordy's newly found boyfriend, and what I mean by new is boyfriend as of that night, an unnamed boy who Maddie had expressed an interest in, who subsequently told her he would like to remain friends, and lastly, another unnamed boy who showed interest in Maddie, but that Maddie wanted to remain friends with him. While Maddie and the unnamed boy were initially disappointed in being turned down, no one who knew of the situation said that anything chaotic or dramatic had essentially arisen from them being turned down. So around 12:30 a.m., Maddie receives an incoming call from a guy whose name has not been publicly released, but the family says that they do know him personally. This is the last cell phone activity known on Maddie's phone. At the same time, Jordy, who claims to be shit-faced at this point, is bumped by a group of roughhousing guys and trips over the fire pit that they have going on there. At this point, she says she makes the decision to leave with her boyfriend. When she goes to tell Maddie, Maddie asks her to stay. I mean, this was their plan, to reconnect, to spend the night camping. Jordy, who has gotten a lot of flack from this decision, refuses to stay. She offers to have Maddie come with them, but Maddie isn't comfortable leaving her camping gear behind, and being that she went through all the trouble of setting this shit up for them in the first place, she's already nestled in for the night. She says she just doesn't want to leave. So with that, Jordy leaves with Tyler, leaving Maddie there essentially alone with a bunch of people she barely knows. In the previously mentioned documentary, Jordy says that by the time she left, there were only maybe about 5 people left at the campsite, most of which she personally did not know. Even Garrett, who I said before set up campsite for himself and did so every year for his birthday celebration, left. According to Dawn, Garrett got into an argument with his girlfriend, and at around 2 a.m., he yanked his tent and left to go home. So if Jordy's account of what happened as she left is correct, Garrett is one of only 5 people left at the campsite when she leaves, of which got into an argument with his girlfriend and abruptly left the campground. There are reports as well that the remaining people that were there between 1:40 a.m. and 3 a.m., again, one being Garrett, offered a ride to Maddie and she refused and wanted to stay. This series of events I have a big issue with, and I will go over why later on, but I just wanted to set that up for later. But the consensus of the night is that by 12:30 a.m., Maddie was left alone at the campsite with people she didn't really know, all of which eventually made the decision to leave, may or may not have offered her a ride home, but all claim that Maddie was alive and well in her tent when they departed the campsite. By 3 a.m., there were no known people at the campsite except for Maddie. 8:30 a.m. the next morning, Jordy and her boyfriend Tyler returned to the campsite. Jordy has to be at work soon, and she, for some reason, wants to return to the campsite to get her stuff. Now, to me, this would make sense if she had brought her work uniform with her the night before, or maybe she left her keys or wallet when she left. But from everything that I could find, at least, it sounds like she was only really interested in getting her camping gear, which was her pillow and a sleeping bag. Everything else was really Maddie's. Maybe there was other stuff, but I couldn't find anything that definitively said that. Also, wouldn't you be more concerned for your girlfriend that you left at a party with a bunch of strangers in the middle of the forest the night before? Wouldn't that be what you're coming to check on? I mean, that would be why I went back. But again, sleeping bag and pillow trumps that, I guess, for some. I found myself super annoyed with Jordy while researching this investigation. I do know she got a lot of crap for this, some of which I do feel is deserved, but I'm sure a lot of the criticism crossed some lines as well. But I mean, why are you such a shit friend is my question. It seems like in all these cases that I read about, and some that we've even covered here on the podcast, that are about teenage girls that end up becoming victims of some sort of crime. At the root of all the cases, there's always just a shitty ass friend there making all the wrong decisions and looking shady as hell with no good explanation as to why. I mean, it was the same thing with the Faith Hedgepeth case that we recently covered. I guess that was just a thing for us girls growing up. You have just this one shit girlfriend you keep bringing around, and it makes no sense. I know I had mine. I still remember her. But for poor Maddie, it looks like she apparently had hers too. Anyways, back to the case. So Jordy and Tyler arrive at the campsite. Jordy says that when she arrived, the front door of the tent was open and unzipped. When she looked inside, Maddie wasn't there, and the things in the tent were somewhat disheveled. In her words, she said that everything was spread out and pushed to the side. Maddie's truck is still there, but again, no sign of Maddie. This apparently didn't seem to alarm Jordy. She grabbed her shit and essentially left. There was no mention of her calling Maddie or searching the area or anything like that, and that just really fucking bothers me. Fast forward to about 10:30 a.m., and Garrett, the birthday boy, arrives on scene. As part of his tradition, he would always show up the day after his celebration and clean up any mess that may have been left from the party. These are according to him. Again, if you claim to camp there every year, wouldn't you just clean up before you left? I don't know. It sounded like he camped there every year and that this was the first year he actually did not, but then he claims to come back every year the day after to clean. Obviously, it's probably just misinformation, but in case it's not, I felt it was a odd, small inconsistency that I found. But anyway, Garrett arrives and spots Maddie's truck as well, and her tent. Only the tent is now zipped up. He assumes Maddie is still in there sleeping and doesn't want to disturb her, so he continues on with his business. I don't know if Jordy zipped the tent up before leaving. There was no mention of that, but if she didn't in fact zip it up, that is super creepy. Now, Jordy has made claims that later on that day she reached out to Dawn expressing concern on Maddie's whereabouts. However, Dawn has aggressively denied these claims. She states that at no time did Jordy ever reach out to her or her family and express any concern on Maddie's whereabouts. So at this point, Dawn is still assuming that Jordy and Maddie spent